This is Punch Drunk Velocity.
I just want to preface this. One of the things that I do in my career outside of this is being a doctor of pharmacy, and I've had some background, and what I want to do is educate kind of the public about some of the real issues that go on, and unfortunately we had one of those at Bellator with Dada 5000 almost actually losing his life this weekend. And one of the major topics that we've discussed internally, and I've already touched on it in one of our prior podcasts, is about weight cutting, and it goes hand in hand with it. And it's another disclaimer on this growing problem, and this problem that's never going away, where, what is it going to take? And I mean, I don't want to go into too many details on the whole logistics of everything, but, this is why we're doing it. I mean, we're definitely doing this for entertainment purposes, but I feel like there's another purpose for me to kind of educate everybody, and especially any fighters that are out there, and everybody, if and any of the pundits that say weight cutting is safe, it's absolutely not. And I mean, people have to realize that it's not just about, when you fuck with your body, things are going to happen. So thank God, he is doing well and everything. I mean, after that travesty of an event, I'm sure everybody tuned into that based on the viewers, but unbelievable. I don't know, Adam, like how much publicity you got out there with you guys.
MMA is an online sport, so we got as much publicity on the internet as you do. But right. So who fucked up in this? There should be some serious fallout. A professional athlete should not be like this after their contest. Dada 5000 should not have got anywhere near that cage. So who do you think fucked up in this? Was it Bellator? Was it the Athletic Commission? Because they do have pre-fight medicals, which he should have failed. He should have failed the fuck out of that pre-fight medical. If not, then what the fuck is a pre-fight medical worth?
I don't know. They I was reading a little bit today about the Texas Athletic Commission, and they're going to do an investigation. But according to them, the pre-fight, the doctors, screened him, and he had no signs of any kind of, hypertension or anything like that. The one thing that did bother me, and I don't know if I just read this really quick, if this happened, then shame on the Athletic Commission's doctors. They said they tested for dehydration by looking at the physical appearance. Yes, that is a way to do it. That is a way to do it. There's actually a sign where you grab the fingers. If you're ever dehydrated and you pinch your fingers and it stays, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, and the skin right there, if it stays up, it means you're dehydrated. But there is a specific test. Did they administer it? They didn't come out and say they administered a urine test that said, because they test for what's something called specific gravity, and that shows the electrolytes in your system, if you're high or low in anything, if there's more, Now, if that didn't happen, shame on them. Because he was dehydrated. I mean, that's not even – so for the fact that they cleared him, sure, his blood pressure could have been fine at the time, but, he definitely was dehydrated. That's why he had potassium. I mean, if those that haven't followed it, he suffered from something called hypokalemia, which is lack of potassium in the blood. Potassium plays a vital part in your heart and your blood pressure. You need potassium. It's almost like you need a low-sodium diet, but you need a high-potassium diet. Potassium helps your heart. You often hear potassium with cramping and muscle cramps, which is true. Eat a banana, you're fine. That's the first stages of dehydration, because potassium, that's it's the warning sign for the body. Potassium is very important. When you have either too high of potassium or too low, it messes your heart up. It gives in something called an arrhythmia, which is an irregular heartbeat. And that's what happened. He suffered cardiac arrest because his potassium levels were so low. And why is that? Because he was weight cutting. He wasn't putting anything in his body. He wasn't. You hear a lot of people, and actually there have been documented deaths of people from drinking water. Too much water, and now this is a different story, but that's how dangerous potassium is. If you're not replenishing stuff with electrolytes and potassium, you could be in serious trouble. It's not just muscle cramps. We're talking about stopping your heart and going into all kinds of problems. I mean, and then on the converse, there's a thing called hyperkalemia with too much potassium, which is actually one of the drugs that's used in lethal injection, for, convicted, felons and everything like that. So I don't really know. I don't know the full story. Who's to blame? You got to say the whole institution. There's so many checkpoints you would think now in this. You would think, Dada 5000 is a fighter. He wanted to get in shape for this. He lost 40 pounds. He was motivated. I don't know. I don't think you blame him. I think he's an athlete, and he's unfortunately. Adam, you're an athlete. You've trained. You fought. I'm an athlete. I've in different sport. I've trained. Sometimes we'll push our bodies to the limits. We're focused on that prize. We're focused on doing the best we can. I'm not going to fault the athlete on this one. I'm going to fault, probably the athletic commission based on what it says, and their board of doctors. It's got to stop, and the whole organization in general. There's all these things that they're trying to do, with banning the IV hydration and banning everything else. I'm also wondering if a drug, if Dada 5000 is going to pass a drug test as well, because I would be interested to know how he cut all 40 pounds, and especially if he lacked this much potassium. I wouldn't be surprised if something like a diuretic was found, or he was using diuretics, because diuretics are the quickest way to get potassium out of your system. So it wouldn't surprise me if he tested positive for something like a Lasix.
Yeah,
So.
There's certainly a lot more information that's going to come about this, but it's a fucking embarrassment to the system on all levels. Because if there's any point to pre-fight medicals, it's preventing a guy like this from ever stepping in the cage.
Yes.
Because we could have had because this was on Spike TV. This was a big fight. This was the second biggest organization in the sport. If we had someone die or develop a very, very serious condition that permanently disabled him, we would have regulators come down on the sport from all levels. It would bring the sport into so much disrepute. So how the fuck they failed and let this guy fight was insane. I agree with you. We can't blame the athlete, because fighters are meant to be a little bit insane. You're not meant to be focusing on all this stuff, and that's the athletic commission's job. That's everybody else involved's job, and the pre-fight medicals, and they're supposed to prevent this kind of stuff from ever coming into issue. It's crazy to me. It's crazy, this whole thing, like the whole fight. It's ridiculous that this should have even been happened. If Bellator have been shown to influence this in either way, as in like manipulating the athletic commission I don't know if this could happen, but if it's shown that they have manipulated the athletic commission anyway or push things in order to get him into the ring despite his medical conditions, then I think they should have their promoter's license revoked. I think it's that serious. But yeah, I think this is almost the end of quote unquote freak show fights, simply because we realized on Bellator 149 that there are certain people who don't belong in mixed martial arts, especially not at the top level.
Absolutely.
And this is a very, very difficult sport. This is a very dangerous sport. This is a very demanding sport. And if you're not ready for it, it's gonna cause some damage. Yep. And yeah, it's a tough one. This was an embarrassment to the sport on all levels. And people talking about the resurgence of Bellator, especially under Scott Coker, but it strikes me how frequently, or with Bellator now, that embarrassment to the sport has been a phrase that's been uttered so frequently. With Ken Shamrock versus Kimbo, with this recently, with Tito Ortiz and Stephan Bonnar and their weird little escapade. I think their desperation for ratings and their willingness to resort to things like this, their willingness to kind of bend athletic integrity to such a level, is really putting the sport in disrepute. And I feel kind of embarrassed that I was so excited excited for this fight prior to it, and sort of didn't buy into like the snobbishness of MMA fans, but I kind of proved them right, the whole result of this fight, the whole result of the Gracie Shamrock fight, which was just really fucking appalling officiating, to be honest. But
yes.
Yeah, it was just bad. Like, Bellator just leaves you with a bad taste in your mouth all the time.